Now all I have to do is actually talk into the microphone and not do this.
This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code TABLED to get 5% off any order over $100. One use only. Thank you to our Patreons. Please consider supporting us.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 129 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. Back with you for another fortnight, and we're all here again. We're also here with the main man. He doesn't have a first name. His first name is Major. Ignore the intro that he seems to have forgotten exists. It's Major Socks.
That's right. I don't have a first name. I lost it 13 years ago.
We actually just decided on Carl. He is now Carl.
Oh, yeah. Or whatever else randomizes appears in their heads. But yes, we got George. George.
Steve.
Yes, I'm here. And we got George, who's having too much fun up there. And I don't know who. George is missing.
Yeah, this all stemmed from a conversation before we started recording where Socks was something along the lines of, I don't even know if our listeners know what my first name is. I was like, yeah, we have mentioned it several times. We just don't bring it up all the time, completely forgetting that it's in the intro. Oh, dear,
yep.
Socks. It's good to see that you listen to the product.
I do.
Shall we discuss some news?
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
Yeah, some of that.
Yep. And we're starting with some Victrix, which is a company that seems to have been around for 3 million years. I don't know. Victrix is a very old company at this point. We have some early Saxon unarmored warriors, which I find...
But they're wearing helmets.
I know, that's exactly what I was about to say, but they are wearing armor.
And they got shields.
Well, yeah, they do have shields too, yeah.
But I think what they mean is that they're not wearing armor. Shield is technically a weapon, I think, in this context. I don't know.
It depends on how you use it. Usually a round shield is usually considered as a defensive weapon.
That's what I was
Either way.
In saying that, there's also going to be multiple ways of building these, right? So they are very pretty looking models. 28mm scale, I think.
Yeah, 28mm. It says that in the first paragraph.
Yep.
28mm hard plastic.
I like
Ladies
that we're
and gentlemen,
early
Carl's ability to read.
That's because he's an Air Force major. He's not in the
I have
Army
to read.
or the Marines.
I actually had to do a reading test for my to get in. Unlike those Marines that probably just look at crayons and say, "Yep, that one's blue, that one's green."
No. They don't know the colors. They only know the flavors.
When I was enlisting, I had to take an Air Force exam for my communications repair tech MOS.
Okay, fine.
So I had to. So yeah, I've taken and passed Air Force tests. So,
all right, fine.
I'm a smart Marine.
And this is why we banter, folks. This is why we banter. So
anyway, back to these Saxons.
Things. So, like, we have, obviously we got people here in cloaks. We got people here in furs, which is kind of what you would expect. They are all wearing helmets, and helmets are armor. But again, I didn't name this.
No. So if you go to the second picture where it's in the diorama, which First of all, that is just absolutely beautiful. The whole like terrain and stuff.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just so.
Yeah.
But there's a dude not wearing a helmet, so he
Yes.
technically is unarmored because he's just holding a spear too. His shield is shouldered,
On the
so
back. Yep.
he's unarmored. There's one that's
There's
unarmored.
one out of the 6. Yeah, 6.
The detail on these looks really nice, but specifically, I think it's the painting that really makes these stand out. There's really, really high contrasts in this.
Yeah.
It's almost
as far as
cartoonish.
Yeah, well, as far as contrasting, like, they've ticked all the boxes, like everything that's the deep recesses is as dark as possible without being black. And if you look at I look at one where it's like you can see their backs,
Yep.
the guy in blue specifically, if you like zoom in on that, you can see like how dark it gets, and there's at least 4 shades going up to the high points for that highlighting. And it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, this is textbook layering for depth.
This is traditional painting. And when we're talking about contrast, we're talking about its actual meaning, not the style of paint that has become very common at this point.
Yes.
You could not get these looks with contrast paints without a lot of very effective highlighting. You could use contrast paints to get a nice effect on them, but if you wanted them to look like this, you would have to continue painting upwards.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think these look really good. Again, Victrix has been around forever. If you look through the menus up the top, you can see like there's a whole series of early Saxons, late Saxons, Normans, Vikings, etc. There's ancients in the Punic Wars, the Greek and Persian Wars. Like they have everything. They're probably most well known for their World War II stuff. This is generally speaking a model company rather than a wargaming company. But in the case of this, obviously this has been designed for gaming, because why would it not be? At 28mm, modelling doesn't do 28mm. But yeah, that's it. I will move on to something I meant to put on the list and then forgot, and then George reminded me. Accidentally, I think. The Exemplar Wet Palette is returning. So, eagle-eyed viewers may be looking at this and going, hey, you said that's returning. Why is this on Kickstarter? Well, it's not just that they're relaunching it. They're actually relaunching it with... They're making new versions of the product. It's not quite a 2.0 like what Redgrass did with theirs. So rather than just the standard wet palette, we have a smaller travel version and a mega, because anything larger has to be mega these days, apparently. They say that they're enhancing the palette paper, which I guess is a thing. I actually really like the look of these new ones, honestly. The Go is probably not something I would buy anymore, but would have been the one that I bought back in the day.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. If you go to the pictures below where it says integrated storage area plus versatile mixing tray.
Parallel.
Yep.
That's,
there should be
integrated
3.
device stand. Oh, yes. Yep.
So in there, you see the little, I guess, silicone palette thing, where you got like the 2 little, brush holding and then the 6 little pockets. So here's what's interesting. What I initially noticed on this in the second image, there's a 6 pocket one. I just ordered one of those from TurboDorks because they're silicone, so you can pop them to get your paint out.
Yeah.
But those are the exact same palettes that TurboDorks sells, and virtually everything you see in these Kickstarter images are on the TurboDorks web store. The brush holder, the water pot, the old style of this that is no longer available apparently. So.
So the Exemplar was already an existing product, and the reason that because you raised this in question, this is why I started with that, because they're not hiding that fact. They say right at the start that it's a returning product. This isn't a case of this is an existing product somebody is throwing on Kickstarter that shouldn't be there. TurboDorks resell Game Envy's product is what's going on there. It's not the other way around. This was a Game Envy product first that's being resold by TurboDorks, which is not uncommon. TurboDorks clearly don't make a version of it themselves, so they're using somebody else's to, get more stuff on their storefront.
Right.
I will say this,
I
though. I really like the fact that, because this is something that a lot of people don't do. This Kickstarter is being done by the actual person themselves. They have not done it as Game Envy. Now, Kit, I'm not going to try your surname. But Kit is Game Envy. But I like the fact that he's using his actual name, because it's not just some business without a figurehead. You know exactly who this is. So if anything goes wrong, he can be called out directly on it. And given some of the stories that we've discussed recently, I like the fact that people are... I mean, it looks like he's always been doing this. If you click on his profile, you can see the other things that he's created. All of which are Game Envy products that have done very well. Some of which are completely new. Some of which are... I mean, hobby holders are not exactly a new thing. But... And neither...
Have you guys seen his hobby light?
Yeah, I was just admiring that Lucent light.
I actually think it looks nicer than the red grass one. It's also cheaper, I think, from memory.
It's $85 versus $220
or something.
Yeah. No, it's $250. I just looked it up when I found that crap Kickstarter that Redgrass is running on their paint handle.
Yeah. And a little bit further down, you'll see that there are special edition wet palettes, and here is where you find your Turbo Dork one.
And what I just saw it too. Was it Ninjon or whatever is the painter?
So they're doing a special edition for each size. Turbo Dork have the portable one. Ninjon have the Pro, which is the middle, and then Creature Caster have the Mega. Personally, I think the artwork on the Creature Caster is the nicer, but I think I prefer the look of the Ninjon one. I just really like that burgundy colour that they're using.
It is a good colour.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally get down to the light that these two are talking about. Like I said, I think this looks brilliant. I like the fact that it's flexible and you can kind of angle it around to get every side. Yep. How well this works in real life is obviously another question, but it looks really impressive. Flicker free, like all of the things you would expect it to be. It's an LED light, so obviously it's flicker free anyway. I do find it amusing that they specifically point that out. I believe you need to provide your own USB plug, though. It says what type it uses, but it doesn't say that it's included.
Do you know how many of those I have sitting around?
Yeah, I know. I'm just pointing it out because for some people it's important.
So, anyway, I think this is a great looking as far as a competitor to Redgrass, because when I did the Redgrass, and don't get me wrong, I have no issues with it. I don't have any regrets for backing it. But after seeing what they did with the light and now their new hobby handle, I've kind of gotten a little get off my lawn attitude towards Redgrass here lately.
I certainly had a very souring taste in my mouth with the light. And initially, when we both did the unboxing, we looked at that light and said, "Oh, I'm excited for that." And then we kind of think, "Yeah, but what if it's expensive?" Well, it's just a light. How expensive could it be?
Very.
But that was somebody did do calculations on it, but it was like well over 200% markup. It was very fancy looking, but essentially it was just a fairly cheap light that was redone. Now, granted, you could make exactly the same argument about this Lucent art light. Like, it's essentially just a cheap light that's been redone. But this is also only $80, not $250 or whatever it was.
Yeah, $250. So
LED lamps are not the cheapest in the world, but they're not expensive.
Yeah, so
anyways, I really like this.
Good looking wet palette. I like the fact that it's more than just a wet palette too. Like it's got It's kind of like a cross between the red grass and the army painter one, where the army painter's
Yeah.
got like some storage built into it, but it doesn't seal.
Mhm.
This does all of that. It seals. It has the storage. One of the images they showed it, being able to prop up a phone, which
Yep.
if you're watching a painting tutorial,
Would be very handy.
right? Like, just it all makes sense. So
I also really like the vacuum seal.
Yeah.
That's just a really, really simple idea. The only issue that you can get with the red grass stuff, because they will vacuum seal as well, but then you've got to kind of fight it to get it back open again, which is how a vacuum seal works. But with this, you can actually release the pressure first so that you're not doing this and having everything fly everywhere, which thankfully I've only done once, but I have done it. So I think they've designed this really well. That's not a new feature. That was on the original. Postage on this is not that bad either, actually. Or at least for me. For me, if it's between £1 and £3, it's a $35 postage. Or if it's between £3 and £6, it's $40 postage. I mean, in my case, I'd be stupid not to try and make sure I had a tier 2 postage. Because it's just better value. I reckon you could make the same argument in the US and in Canada. Probably the only one you couldn't make that argument about would be Norway and Switzerland. Though that's also probably as far away. Oh, no, we're further away than they are. But Norway and Switzerland may be one of those areas that's just a little bit more expensive to get into because they do have higher tax rates and stuff. I don't know.
So next on the list, at first when I opened the tab and just looked at it, at first I thought it was a new Rebel Slam faction.
You very much could use them in that. You'd have to make up some rules or steal rules. I look at this, so this is the Visions of Heaven. And my first thought is, okay, whoever designed these minis has read that last book of the Bible. Because there's no way that there's two of these that are very clearly actually how angels are described.
Mm-hmm.
Because biblical descriptions of angels are not humans with wings with harps. That's completely fictional.
Yeah, they're very horrifying.
Oh yeah. I actually think the ghosts in the front is my favorite part.
So as stereotyped as it is from all of the Hollywood exorcism movies and everything, the priest I think is just the standout miniature because it is for what he's doing, right? He's reading from a book, he's essentially just in that pose. But it looks so action-filled and dynamic for him doing probably the most basic thing of all these minis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you can kind of see the results of his work starting to form as well. With the ghost that's just starting to appear.
Out of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could paint this a number of different ways. I mean, the way that they've painted it, even the ghosts kind of they're terrifying looking ghosts. But the colours are very nice and friendly, and I mean, you don't want to meet any of these things in a dark alley, but at the same time, you kind of feel like they're at least fighting on the nice side of the tracks. It really wouldn't take much to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Add a few washes into those ghosts, and already they are going to look like they are terrifying. Paint up the actual human parts of it to look like it's undead, and then have fire for the rest of it, and it's already changed. You could make this out to be like a necromancy type thing very easily.
I for sure wouldn't want to meet the big stone lion dude in a dark alley.
No.
The Wolverine claws.
Wolverine claws. It's like the and
the
lion
10 stakes.
Yeah, and then
It's interesting how they show him with and without wings too.
They do.
Yeah.
I must have missed that. Oh, they do too. That's cool. I hadn't actually noticed that.
I almost like him with the wings.
I think I prefer with the wings, yeah.
No, absolutely, yeah. Prefer it with the wings. I mean,
I like the fact that it's been done in a way that it doesn't look like they're missing.
Each spirit represents a different sin of man and are the incarnations of that sin. Wraith spirits are the most vengeful and aggressive, while greed, gluttony, or sloth are more purposeful with who they attack, making a point of targeting the greediest noble or the most decadent.
Interesting. Which for Carnivale makes sense. Like one of the big bads is the noble faction, so that makes sense. It is also worth noting that in no way is the Vatican supposed to be innocent in this. Although
No one's
they
innocent.
well, certainly not in this world, no. I really like what they've done with this. It always kind of astounds me because you would expect that they'd start to run out of ideas at this point, but there's still, every time they release, it's just something that really, really feels like it should have been there from the start. I'm yet to see a release out of Carnivale that's not really
I still think TTCombat needs to come up with some rules real quick, though, and make this a Rumble Slam faction, too.
I think this could fit into Rumble Slam very easily. Moving on.
Speaking of Rumble Slam,
the Executive Branch, which is a name that I just love. So we had teasers of this over social media for the last few days. This is a naturalist faction. We have, I'm just going to say that it's Rocket Raccoon, even though it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be Rocket Raccoon, but let's be honest. That's what everybody's going to think. I love this squirrel thing. There is definitely something from pop culture that is that, but I don't know what it is. This, like, I want to say, is it Dryad that's like half tree, half sexy woman? Here to the left?
Dryads are the half tree.
Yep. And then we have the Druid, or at least I'm assuming that's what it's supposed to be. It's kind of some tribalistic looking.
Amazonian Druid,
Yeah.
it says on the card.
Does it? Okay. I'm just looking at the main image at this stage. And I don't know how to describe this last thing.
The Great Fairy. That's what it says on her card.
Oh, so that's meant to be smoke around her. Okay. So my only question is, why has the smoke been painted flesh colour?
Because Fae.
Exact. Yeah, I suppose. If you zoom in, it's not actually as flesh coloured as what the rest of it looks like. Okay. It's just pink. That's better. The further out image, everything kind of blends together. But when you go to the singular image, it is very clear that the skin is a much lighter colour.
Mm-hmm.
Can I point out something else in the male-dominated genre of wargaming and fantasy and all that other stuff?
Yeah.
The Great Fairy's not stereotyped.
Oh, no, not at all. To
She
me,
is quote-unquote thick.
To me, this screams Legend of Zelda. Because that's like all of the great fairies in Legend of Zelda look like this.
Yeah, so
this-ish. I think they've done really nicely here. Thorn Dryad. Okay, yep, that works. Thorn Dryad, I kind of feel like I should know who that's supposed to be, but I'm just not sure. There's just something about the way that it looks that reminds me of somebody that's active at the moment.
It's giving me some Poison Ivy vibes, but not completely.
Yeah. That's not it, though. We've also got a brand new lizard. And I'm going to say Korot. Or Karut. He is a fire lizard, essentially. He's really cool. I like his fangs.
No, if he's a fire lizard, then he's hot. Not cool.
He can be both. He can decide whatever he wants to be. He, she, I'm not sure. They can decide whatever they want to be. I like
actually in the paragraph it says Karut makes use of her.
Yep, there we go. Thank you, Socks. I really, really like this.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. I mean, I almost want to say Rick the Dragon Steamboat.
Oh, she has Velociraptor claws.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was just saying a second ago. Like, quite literally, it's the raptor claw. It's really, really nicely done. And the last one from TTCombat for the day is the Naturalist. which is definitely not Ric Flair. It's definitely not the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I don't even know why you would suggest that. It's totally meant to be Ric Flair. Like, there's no question about that at all. It's a very young Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair is 307 years old at this point and looks like he's 700. But I really like what they've done. It very much feels
especially
like
if you
the
go
right thing.
down. If you read further down, Bruce, it says the naturalist is a fan favorite and he will woo the crowd.
Yep. Which, it's just complete coincidence. Like, this is very clearly a natural character. There is nothing natural about Ric Flair whatsoever.
No.
No, if he's still alive, there's absolutely nothing natural about that man. It's all Slim Jims and plastic surgery at this point.
I don't know about Slim Jims. Like, I think I think there's more alcohol in his body than there is blood at this point.
That's why I'm saying Slim Jims, because it's processed and cured. Like, he's eaten enough of it that it's processed and cured his own body.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're to buy this, I mean, just go to town with it. Like, you could just paint this up to be a gown if you wanted to. Like, yes, they've painted all of this up to be leaves, but that could just be very fancy Hollywood-looking fur if you really wanted to be. Like, paint all of that up to be white and paint up the gown however you want. He had one of every colour. Just be careful with the trunks colour, because if you paint the trunks the wrong colour, he will lose. Wrestling fans will get that. I really like this. My favourite release of this is probably the first one, though.
Absolutely, yeah. The
pack set.
Yeah, just
Divisions.
I can't even use words to describe how awesome it is. It's literally one of the best looking things I've seen.
I just like it when you can literally, like, you can change
Bruce.
how something looks very easily. Yes?
Bruce, I just thought of something fun, right? So you got a priest and, like, it's, the 4 demons or whatever, right? Write up some rules and, like, bring in some Western influence into Bushido.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a cool little unit right there for crossover, because,
That'd be fun.
historically, right?
Yeah.
There's already Oni and stuff like that, so there's no reason why the Vatican can't show up and just be like, check out my granite golem.
It's just so much fun.
Yeah. Moving on to something really cool looking. Tanks.
Yay! We all love tanks. So,
Tanks.
although we haven't covered a lot of it, the releases for Legions Imperialis have been rolling out quite smoothly. This was one that was kind of like, ooh, that looks pretty. I think the last time we looked at Legions Imperialis was also for the Soli Auxilia. And this is one of the first expansions for that force. This thing is just gorgeous.
So these Stormblade tanks, right? Like full scale for 28 mil, 40K, 30K, whatever. They are just an eye-catching miniature that is, gigantic because it's huge, but it's just eye-catching because it's just such a good, like, realistic. If you look at a lot of the stuff in 40K, there's a lot of, rule of cool and artistic license.
Are you
But if
trying
you
to
look
tell
at
me
these-
that a brick wouldn't fly in real life?
Yes.
No.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. But to look at these Storm Blades and in turn the Bane Blades, because it's a related tank, these look real. Land Raiders, Rhinos, no, not even close. These look like leopards. They look like tigers. They look like Shermans. They look like Abrams.
Something that has evolved from the technology we have today.
Exactly, yeah. And to see it just so beautifully done, it looks great.
And to have something with this level of detail that we know is about that big,
yeah,
it's just insane.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really, really, really cool. Which is not just, I mean, we've seen people that can pull out detail from small scales before. Famously, Hawk War Games, now TTCombat, because they brought it. All of the drop zone stuff is gorgeous. All of the dystopian stuff is gorgeous from Warcradle. I think there's this misnomer that small...
Can't have a lot of detail.
Yes,
Yeah,
small scale can't have a lot of detail. And I think part of that is Games Workshop's fault. Because in their early days, that is basically what they did with their early stuff. Is it was just cheaply done.
Well, and technology and tooling isn't what it is now. I mean, you know, a lot of that stuff was hand carved. Now you have the stuff called CNC, computer controlled machining, where you can do
Very precise.
You know, a 2 millimeter dip that's 1 millimeter deep, right? You can program that and it will machine that out perfectly. And you can design these all digitally, upload it to that machine, and it will do that.
The fact that everything is done digitally definitely helps in that regard.
Yeah,
I think sculpting something in this scale from green stuff is just hard mode. It's just not. Like, some people are really good with green stuff, but getting this level of detail from the green stuff is expert level. To the point where I think you would struggle to find a handful of people on the planet that could pull this out with green stuff. Now, I could be wrong on that, but...
I think the problem is there's too few people that are skilled like that anymore.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that it would then take them to do that would not be possible for them to keep up with any sort of release schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are still some people out there that do sculpt everything they do with green stuff, but it's not common anymore.
Well, and if it is, it's more of like a centerpiece showcase type stuff. We talked about it. This was when Ankh was still in its fulfillment stage from CMON, where they posted, you know, images of them going through sculpting the Beset model. You know, like the master mold, like, you know, sculpt it, you know, from hand with clay, like. Certain cases, that still happens, but I highly doubt Games Workshop does that anymore.
No, Games Workshop don't at all. And when they hire somebody that does, they usually teach them to sculpt digitally. Everything out of Games Workshop has been digital for at least 5 or 6 years. I don't know the exact year that it changed, but it's been a while now.
Yeah.
Moving on. I thought it was time to touch on some Infinity stuff. There's been a whole, like, this is the release that's happening for Adepticon. So this is Ultramarines for Infinity. Sorry, it's just the way they look. So this is an expansion on the O12 faction. They're called the Torchlight Brigade. Most of this has been shown off on tabletop. They did a week for this recently. These are pretty, of course they are. It's Infinity. All of
Infinity
stuff is pretty. But it looks very, very, very different from the rest of their world. I'm not saying that it doesn't feel like it fits in, but the style of the armor and everything is very unique to this faction and does feel very Ultramarine-y. I'm not the first person to make that remark, by the way.
Well, and here's why. If you look at, too, Ultramarines, right, you know, Roman Empire, if you look at these guys, they've got the crest on their helmets like, you know, a Roman officer would.
Yeah.
And you tell me that that's not a stylized Roman sword.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's very much stylized, but it's designed after that era.
It's a bigger gladius. That is what it is.
Yeah. I think the tag... Well, actually, I'm not sure if that is... Yes, it is a tag. I think the tag might be my favorite.
Is that the guy with, like, the exoskeleton arms?
Yep. And the giant
that looks pretty dope. The one that really caught my eye was the sniper. He's the second one after the group photo.
I will go back. So that one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. With the cloak.
Is very, very pretty. They've really hit this out of the park. I think for me, the weakest of them is the first image where he kind of has like the Roman style helmet with his face.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like
Shown
he's
through.
really bored. But in saying that, when you're showing that little of a face, I mean, you could give him all the attitude you want, and you're really not going to see it, so what's the point?
Well, maybe he is really bored because he looks like he's like the grunt foot soldier. So maybe it's not,
Fine,
you know,
I'll shoot
sucky
you if I
enough.
have to. It's just the vibe I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, maybe it needs to suck for more for him to be happy. Socks, you've been around grunts. The worse it sucks, the happier they are, right?
Sometimes, not always.
We also have a reinforcements pack on the way. So this is just O12 generally, as opposed to specific for the Torchlight Brigade. But again, it's really, really pretty. That the very first armored soldier is just gorgeous. Like seriously, these are so nice. Love the mohawk. It's all very bright and colourful. The pink hair. They've just done a really nice job. And then finally,
That first dude's got a hole in his head?
No, it looks
No.
like that, but it's
It's
the
a
way it's
lie.
painted.
Is
It's
it the way
the-
it's painted?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a white crest on his helmet.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it looks like there's a slot and a hole there.
I thought the same thing when I first saw it until I looked at it closely, and I was like, nope, it's just
Yeah.
painted white to make it look like it. And with the white background, it looks exactly like you just stated. He's got
Do
a
you,
hole
do
in
you-
his
do
head.
you know how you avoid getting headshots?
Don't stick your head up.
You have a hole where they're gonna headshot you.
hey, he's not wrong. If you're going to have something painted up with a bright white line like that, maybe putting it on a white background's not the smartest decision.
Maybe.
Yeah. And then finally, we have the event exclusive miniature, which is something that they always do. They say it's an event exclusive. You can buy this if you're not at Adepticon. You can order this through your website, and they usually make it available to their partnered stores as well. But it will be a limited time deal that you can get this. I really like this bounty hunter, honestly. It's kind of a... I want to say it's more cyberpunk than what we had been looking at. Because you kind of have that mix of ultra tech and then he's just wearing a hoodie because he thinks it looks cool.
And half of a mask.
Yep. I kind of love the fact that he has a baseball cap on, which makes no sense whatsoever. Hence why I'm saying it's cyberpunk, because nothing about this makes sense, but that's also kind of why I like it. And he doesn't have a tactical rock. Yep.
Well, so it's the whole, if he's a bounty hunter, right? You gotta like obscure and change your identity so they don't see it coming. So wearing hats is a quick way to change your appearance.
Yep. He's got the hoodie on. He's got a hat on. Nobody's going to know that he's a very high-tech soldier. How could they possibly guess? This giant gun? Oh, it's just tools for work, honestly. I really like this. I know I'm making fun, but I really do like this.
You obviously haven't been to America, have you?
America's full of sci-fi armor?
No, guys just running around with guns for work.
Yeah.
Ever
Probably
hear
do.
of Texas?
We have debated that topic offline more than once. George and I have very differing opinions on that subject.
As much as I don't want to say it, I think the first one, the Torchlight Brigade pack.
Yep.
I think with it being like a new unit kind of thing, and there's like so much to it, like I just, of course, it is 110 euros. So
yeah, but these are also got some really large minis in there as well.
but you're looking at like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're looking at like 11 euro a mini essentially. So
yeah, but that giant mech exoskeleton thing is on a 50mm base.
No, I understand.
That's not small.
I understand, but when you look at like 110 euro and there's 11 mini no, 9 minis, like it breaks out per mini to a reasonable price.
Yeah. Metal. One of
Moving on.
them. I've just saw Most of them are metal. One of them is injected
Resin?
thermoplastic.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what the machine's called. The one that
CO
nobody
cast?
likes. CO cast, thank you. So that is a... I have had zero problems with CO cast. I bought multiple Infinity things in CO cast specifically to review them. I've had zero problems with them. But generally speaking, most of the population really dislikes it. So that may be a downside for certain people. Yes, moving on.
I completely forgot these people existed, except for the fact that, they're partnering with Mythic Games on a failed Kickstarter. Well, soon to be failed Kickstarter, I have a feeling.
Yeah, that's not their fault, but...
Well, no, it's not.
It was just around when that campaign was finishing, I want to say, that people started to go, hang on, this is a problem. But it hadn't been entirely obvious at the point where that was going live. Yes, we've got new... We don't cover War Machine much. It's not really a game that grabs me personally, and I'm generally the one that puts this stuff together. But I kind of felt like it was overdue to have another look. This first one, Kruger, is gorgeous. Like, it's just stunning.
So it is a great looking miniature, and they have done a great job painting it. And I have a feeling, as great as this mini looks, you need to have a really good paint job to fully appreciate the quality of the sculpt. And this is one of those minis where it's like it needs a very specific type of paint job, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It is worth remembering that everything that they do at this point is print-on-demand service. So, sculpt, yes, but it's a very expensive 3D printer that's doing all of this stuff. So, yes, you are right.
So
I just really love the look of this mini. I just...
Real quick then, if this is print on demand, so is this coming like fully assembled as is, or do you still have to put together then?
That's a good question, because I've not bought any of it.
Because
I wouldn't be surprised either way.
The Blood Bowl stuff I got from I forget how to pronounce it. YA Games.
That's how I was saying it.
Yeah, it's all assembled, all ready to go. Like, they just print it out, you glue it onto a base, and you go. There's no assembly.
In theory, it should be already built. I just don't know specifically.
Yeah.
And this doesn't tell you. So it's kind of hard to know exactly. I wouldn't be surprised either way. It just depends on... Because if they decide to have it in multiple parts, it might actually help the model in shipping too. Because there's some bits of that if you was to have that just in one piece...
like
that might be rather fragile.
The tentacles and that smoke coming up on top might break off.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're somebody that has been buying the 4th edition Warhammer Horde stuff, reach out to us and let us know, because none of us play it, so we don't know the answer to this question. I haven't shown everything that's coming
played
this
anymore.
Well, I've never played. I have bought some of their stuff in the past, but I've never played.
I've got a Protector of Mennoth army that I've used twice.
Okay. It started going off in your area and then died off, or?
It was going in my area at Privateer Press. They had a absolute smoking deal on these like massive army boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to go through my local store and be like, hey, I want this. Can you get this? And he says, no, I can't get that. I can get all the individual stuff in, but it's going to be twice as much as this. So go ahead and buy this.
Yeah.
You're not going to hurt my feelings because this is a deal. So.
No, that's understandable. It's always a problem when companies decide to do that. It just undercuts the people that they're supposed to be supporting.
Well, and the thing is, too, is like, they couldn't get it, but I was getting it through Miniature Market, not Privateer Press.
Yeah.
So Miniature Market could get it from their, distributor.
Oh,
but
okay.
my
That's
store
different
could not get it from their distributor. Yeah, so it was really weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Privateer Press have had some interesting distribution issues in the past. I know there was an issue in Australia for a little while, but it's never really been clear whether it was a privateer press problem or a local
Wait,
problem.
distribution issues in Australia? That doesn't happen.
We also
In other
have
news, water is wet. No.
we also have Emperor Carver Ultimatus Esquire III and his war boar. I'm not 100% sure which is which, but I kind of...
Yeah, I was going to say, which one is which? Like,
I want to assume the one in the back is the Emperor, just because there seems to be more character to it, where Warboar makes me think of generic-looking stuff, which makes me think of this one in the front. But I genuinely don't know.
The one in the background's holding a sword.
Oh, no, I'm right. The second and the third picture actually show you.
Yeah.
So the one in the back, the one that looks closest to a Warhammer thing, is the character. And the Warboar is the half mech looking thing. So all three of these so far have been from the mercenary faction. War Machine for me is one of those things where, generally speaking, aesthetically it doesn't do a lot for me. I really like these though. I've always been a fan of the Crocodile Men that they did, which is from the same faction. Well, ish.
Mm-hmm.
Mercenary is now two separate things now. One being like Pigmen and the other one being Crocodile Men. Last but not least, we have the Cursebound Cadra, which is just horribly monstrous, demonic looking things. We have the Soul Slaver, clearly a very pure and innocent creature, that one. I don't know why you would think that they're not. The Warlord. And then we start going into the beasts. So we've got the Ravener, the Nashers, Grotton Champion. And these things look gorgeous. Honestly, they really do.
Can I say one thing that I'm a little disappointed in?
Yeah?
So Kruger, right? Beautifully painted. The Emperor and his Warboar, beautifully painted. The Soul Slaver and the Warlord, beautifully painted. Everything else isn't.
Yeah.
Come
Very
on.
clearly a work in progress. If you're gonna... You can't half paint something and not paint the rest of it. You should have everything ready when you want it to go live.
Yeah, if you're selling this, Curseborn Cadre at $110, and the image of it has got, 3, 6, 8 miniatures on it, and only 2 of them are painted, that's crap.
I understand, we want to get this up for pre-order so we can't start getting money for it, but the couple of weeks, I guess, difference that would take to make sure everything was ready is going to mean money.
Yeah.
Rushing this out doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Which is, it may not be what it was done, but it's how it feels because it hasn't been painted. It's actually a little bit more than that, though. Because if you look at that unpainted stuff, it's also not just unpainted. That is concept. It hasn't been printed yet. That's a 3D render. Whereas the other ones have been painted. So, yeah. I don't necessarily have a problem with 3D renders. It's what companies do some of the time. But half of one and half the other just makes it look unprofessional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Are we being unfair? Let us know. I'm quite happy to be called out on it.
I don't think so. I mean, the fact it's Privateer Press. This is not like some little company.
This is a company that at one point in time was threatening Games Workshop on level of design.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point in time where Games Workshop was in trouble, and it was because of this company. This isn't just me trying to exaggerate. And again, this is coming from someone that isn't really a huge fan aesthetically. I don't have a problem with the game. It's just aesthetically it never did anything for me. But there was a point in time where Games Workshop directly lost sales. And it's the only real time they've had a huge drop-off. And it was because of this. Now, they are not that company anymore. They have been struggling in modern day. But they should know better. If you're going to do something, do it. None of this half of one and half of the other. I don't know. That's how I feel. Good stuff coming out of them, though. And as much as, like, when they announced the print-on-demand stuff, we were quite critical at the time. Because the prices were like, you're trying to sell 3D prints for the price of hard plastic miniatures. But from everything I've heard, this has been selling really, really well. So the market was definitely there for it.
Well, and to be fair too, the minis I was sent to review, that's
gorgeous.
Really, that is really good quality resin.
Yep.
Like it is, I'd say it's even better than hard plastic.
Print on demand is definitely the way that the market is going. At least from an indie standpoint. Like, is everything going to eventually be that way? No, but it's the easier way to do business if you're trying to get in, or if you... Because let's be fair here, warehouses are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if you have a product line that just doesn't go anywhere? You have a warehouse full of stuff that you're then paying to sit on a shelf somewhere. If it's print on demand, you're eliminating part of that problem. So
yeah.
Moving on. We got another Kickstarter I actually came across. I don't even remember when now. It was a little while ago. Might have been last week, might have been the week before. So this is a 3D printing Kickstarter by somebody that's done quite a few of them. And this one is basically all basing material, or intended to be. You could use a lot of this for terrain as well. 3 guesses why I thought this would jump out. All of this fits into Entropy City. Like,
I was going to say, it looks like it's from Detroit.
That too. So in the core set, we're starting with destroyed elements, which doesn't really mean anything. But it's just blown up parts of buildings and stuff that's clearly been lying on the ground with rebar everywhere. The columns, the destroyed columns, is probably my more favoured thing from this. I just think it looks really nice. I also like the fact that we've got differing levels of destruction across the range as well. Like in the staircase, you get like some really pristine looking stairs, some very broken ones, and then some extremely looking broken ones.
Well, so I've been scrolling down. And it's like you got the walls and the brick buildings, but then you start getting into like the street exhibitions, with street signs, whatever.
Yep.
But then you get into your living room.
Versions of it.
Yeah, but then you have your living room furniture, and your recreation room furniture.
Yeah.
And then your suitcase trolley and suitcases, and then your bathroom.
They have gone all out on this.
You could 3D print a freaking mini toilet.
So, going to the recreation room for a second. We've got our first level, which is kind of like, okay, we're in Modern Warfare. Like things are like we're in a fairly solid. Maybe this is a role playing game. Like we're just going through some house, and then we've got our next level, which is okay. This is definitely a war torn city, and then that last one is okay. This is just a zombie apocalypse at this point. And they're doing that with everything from this point on, with the exception of water splashes, because you can't have a ruined water splash. But this is just gorgeous. Glass bottles. You've always got to have glass bottles and beer packaging. Boxes of wine, large wooden boxes.
Ooh, lightning strikes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. And then there's shots too. Like
the shot effects, yeah.
Oh, explosions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really like the one on the top right, where it kind of looks like it's a fireworks factory that's going off.
Mm-hmm.
I just think like, where were these explosion FXs when it's like, I still had a dwarf army in Warhammer Fantasy and I needed to have a marker for the cannonball for where it's, doing its thing.
Yeah. Well, 3D printing has made stuff like that a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Boxes of wine?
Yep. tools, railway tracks. They
All
call it
sorts of stuff.
firewood. I'm just going to call it lumber.
Traffic lights, Bruce.
Yeah, and I like the fact that there's different styles of traffic lights.
Yeah.
It's not just New York ones. It's not just Australia. Like, there's pretty much everybody's version of streetlights here. They've done some research here, which is good.
Pigeons.
Yeah, I
And
love the
seagulls.
pigeons and the seagulls.
So I love things like this just because they go through and they do something that people don't think about, like
Yeah.
trash cans.
Or dead birds.
Old children's toys. Do you want your war-torn city to have a really creepy feel? Throw children's
Bunny
toys
and
everywhere.
monkeys.
Yeah, right. Like old sock monkeys or whatever. Yeah, just
Yeah.
littering the street.
Yeah, like if you want people to be creeped out, that is how you creep them out. Because that just sends a message of just how badly things have gone.
Metal cans, paper packaging.
Yep. I like the fact that, like, the garbage piles, and this is a really silly thing to be impressed by, but they've specifically designed ones to go in corners as well as ones to go up against a wall.
Yep.
Whereas, generally speaking, you tend to get piles or one or the other. These guys have kind of covered all bases here, which is something I really, really appreciate. As someone that specifically went looking for stuff like this at one point.
Torn off body parts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
They've really, really gone to town here.
They've literally gone through and like, okay, what is not
What's the most
terrain?
randomized items
like,
in life that we could just throw in and make terrain out of?
Yep.
Oh
Going
my
through the stretch goals, like immediately, bedroom. Hey, look, there's the torn up mattress I spent 3 weeks trying to find.
food. They have food. You can get a freaking chicken.
Yep. Doesn't it make you hungry? Nope.
Ooh, and pizza.
Everybody wants pizza. They've done really, really well here. Everything appears to be pre-supported. There are even free samples there where you can kind of click and download and get an idea of how well they come out before you buy them, which is nice. I kind of feel anybody that's doing 3D printed stuff on Kickstarter should have at least something as a sample, especially if there's somebody that haven't been around very long. I mean, these guys have had multiple campaigns at this point, but still. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing. They've actually got examples of the printed product. That is something that doesn't get done as often as it should be done. That is something that should be on every Kickstarter page.
Yeah, imagine how much headache a lot of people wouldn't be dealing with if Mythic Games actually did something like that.
Well, it's a little bit different there, though, because that product literally didn't exist at that point. This is stuff that's all been sculpted already. So there's no excuse not to do it.
But before the campaign launched, CMON sent out prototype boxes of Masters of the Universe
True.
for
That is a
review.
good point.
So there's no reason why. So, anyways, great looking stuff. Like it's good to see the random bits of terrain that don't exist. Someone make it to exist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're selling this as basing bits, but like I said, there is absolutely no reason why this isn't terrain as well. If you're trying to build a table that's ruined in some way, modern city, this is something you need to have.
Or like you're trying to do a skeezy motel like ruins, and you got beds everywhere.
Yeah.
Because those are getting tossed out of rooms in front of the windows as like a bullet barricade.
I drive by one every single day on my way to base.
That sounds lovely. Is it right outside of base?
Like a half mile down the street. Yes.
Perfect. That is
Half
that
mile
is
down the street?
perfection.
Yeah, that definitely didn't come out of base at all, did it? Yes, it did.
Oh,
They just were smart
Bruce,
enough to walk far enough not to be accused of it.
a lot of the land near a military base is usually fairly run down and dilapidated because of the base. No one wants to be next to it, and it's where all the crap gets
scum.
dumped.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. That's kind of where I'm leaning. All right, let's move on. We're
Turn
in a
up your RPG to 11.
Yeah.
Oh, what movie is that? Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap, but it goes up to 11, man.
So the Epic Encounters range has been something that Steamforged Games have been doing for a while. These are essentially a campaign session in a box. So we're starting here with the Savannah of the Null pack, which is a whole heap of Null monsters and a scenario to go with them.
Interesting.
They are really, really gorgeous. So it comes with that map. It comes with an adventure for everything to play. It comes with tokens and everything.
I'm assuming this is based for 5th edition.
It's meant to be for 5th edition, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's no reason why, if you're an experienced DM, you couldn't just convert it for... what's the other one
Pick
called?
your scenario. Pathfinder.
Pathfinder, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of this is that this is just something you slide into your campaign as an easy, look, we're just going to do this today as just a thing. Or you can build your campaign around this pack and start reusing things and going along those lines. Following up, and again, this is something they've been doing for a while as well, there is a boss encounter that hasn't loaded properly. Why did you not load properly? You were working earlier.
It's DNS. It's always DNS.
That's really annoying.
Loaded fine for me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets to look at my thing.
Maybe it's prohibited in Australia now.
Nope, no, I got it. It just didn't load properly the first time. So we have a boss battle, Rage of the Null Warseeker. So you get to follow from one directly into the next. Again, like this is something they've been doing for their encounters for a while. So you've got this larger miniature for your big bad, the scenario to go with it, where it's actually taking place. It's been done really, really, really nicely. If you scroll down, you actually get to see kind of like some of the other things that they've done. So there's like an undead arena horde, a labyrinth of the goblin, there's a lich empress, hall of the orc king, so on and so forth. Like there's a whole series of these that you can go through. They've been doing these for a while.
This is probably why Wizards wanted to change their OGL licensing then.
Yeah, it depends.
The OGL was saying, if you're making something based off our stuff to use with our stuff, we want a cut of your income.
Yeah, no, that's not where I was going with that comment. So the OGL, the way that it stood at the time, was that if you directly use something from their property in your thing, so like one of the tables or so forth from the game.
Right. Yeah.
And it was very hard to create something for 5th edition without doing that. So I suspect that this would have been one of the things. But thankfully that didn't go through and they were kind of forced to change their business plan. And
Well, it's because everyone threw a fit.
yeah, and everybody that was involved in that decision got fired. Hasbro fired a lot of them.
Oh, Hasbro's fired a lot of people, so...
Yeah, because it cost them a lot of money.
Well, no, not just their toy sides, like...
No. Most of the firings came from the role playing and the card games.
No, I'm talking about Hasbro in general has fired a majority of its staff, period.
Yeah, and most of those firings are not from the toy market. Most of them are from the role playing and the card games.
No, that's the toy market that's taking a hit too, Bruce.
No,
Yes.
There's been research done into this.
Oh, really? Oh.
Specifically,
The stuff
I can tell you for a fact that Transformers was not touched. There was 2 people from Transformers fired. I don't remember everything else off the top of my head, but there is a news out there about how it was affecting the toy as well. Most of the people from the toy ranges didn't get touched. I'm not saying all of them were touched, but most of them were not.
I do know the team that started the Baldur's Gate game. All of them were gone, and so when the developer was accepting its award for Game of the Year, like all the staff that they had worked with initially to get the project off the ground were gone from Wizards. So
Well, Wizards weren't directly involved in that. That was a third
yeah,
party.
they were. It was their intellectual property, and they pushed the
Yeah, but
project with the developer, and everyone from Wizards that worked with the developer to get the project going had
okay.
been fired.
Sorry, that's different. Because what I was trying to say is that like the actual party that made the game wasn't Wizards.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
So yeah, with so the God Terror stuff I have, it's Steamforged Games.
Yep.
And if the miniatures in this are any of that quality, freaking brilliant.
should be.
Like it's the quality of these minis will be amazing from what I've seen. So
And
Like,
should be one piece as well.
yeah, that's the other thing too with Steamforged Games is you don't have to put stuff together.
Yep.
I like this and the fact of, if you're a new DM, so like having played a fair amount, like being able to sit there and just come up with your own stuff for months upon months, it takes time to learn that. You need to start off with, aids and stuff like that. And stuff like that, yes, this is a little on the pricey side.
Yeah.
But it's good though too. Like
it is very good.
There's no way Steamforged Games is going to be producing this sort of stuff, boxing it and selling it, and it not be good.
In saying that, I mean, you're looking at £54, right? It's 20 miniatures, a double-sided game mat, and the adventure book as well. In saying that, I don't know how large the adventure book is.
It's $55 US.
Sorry about that.
Bless you.
And yeah, the other one is slightly less than that. It's 54 or something. Ooh.
45. Or 50 on the nose, so 55 and 50.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought this is really well done.
No, those
Honestly,
are really cool. Like that's actually really cool to see.
Yeah. I don't know about elsewhere, but I know in Australia you quite frequently see the older versions of these discounted quite well too. So you should actually be able to pick these up after a while at an even cheaper price. Apparently that knoll, like the big boss, apparently that's 100 mil tall. So
Jeez.
that's about
10 centimeters, so 2.2 centimeters per inch, so that's about 8 inches.
22. So 12 inches is 30 centimeters. So
Oh crap! Yeah, I went the wrong way.
So a foot is 30 centimeters. So it's a third of a foot, whatever that works out to be. So about what, 4.5 inches?
So about 4 inches.
Yeah.
So
it's a decent size.
yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
The Hobbit, or no, the Fellowship. It's the Fellowship.
The Golden Band.
I don't know what you're talking about. It clearly
I
states
don't know.
the Fellows of the Golden Band. Nowhere on this does it say Fellowship or Ring or anything like that. I love this so much. This is so good. So yeah, this is Warp Miniatures. We have looked at a couple of things of theirs in the past. This came up as something that was being offered, and I was like, oh, I have to talk about this. It's so cartoony and over the top. I mean, this doesn't look anything vaguely like the movies. It's not trying to look anything like the movies.
I'm sorry, Bruce. I'm going to have to disagree with you. The little person with the frying pan, that looks like Sean Astin, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
Okay. I don't think it looks like him at all, but I mean, the hair's right. That's about it. I really like these. I think they're gorgeous. So this is being done through their Patreon. They do have printed and painted versions of the minis. If you've seen anything by Warp Miniatures, this over-the-top cartoonish character is very much their style. They do it with pretty much everything that they do. It is what they're known for. It's just really pretty.
And that being said, the wizard in the middle is just absolutely phenomenal. It is the textbook stereotyped cartoon wizard.
Yep. It feels like it's directly out of a cartoon. I'm not saying the cartoon, because yes, there was a cartoon version of Lord of the Rings, only the first book though. But that style was different again. But this looks directly out of a cartoon that would have been made in the last 20 years at some point, almost randomly.
Oh, you mean the Hobbit cartoon?
I don't know. Was there a Hobbit cartoon as well? I know there was a Lord of the Rings one.
Oh yeah, maybe that was it. Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Never mind. My bad.
I don't know. I've seen the Lord of the Rings one. I don't recall seeing a Hobbit one. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist though. So yeah, I really like this.
Oh my god, Mandolph the monochrome, Walker the ranger.
Yeah, their names are funny.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Grimly the dwarf.
Bootle Glass instead of Legolas.
Robo, Stanwise, Maddie, and Poppin.
And Barrymere.
Barrymere the fighter, yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
Wait, does Barrymere have a brother named Faramir then?
He might do.
Probably.
If you look at the side here, you can kind of see how much it is. You're looking at $13 a month Australian. I don't know what it is in America.
$8.
Or otherwise. Oh, hang on. That's the early bird that's sold out. So you're actually looking at the next one. So $16.50, which I'm guessing is the 10, 15. Yeah.
A tenner.
Yep. So it's about the same price as what everybody else's are. But theirs are very, very characterful. You're not getting as much as you do for some of the D&D ones, but you're getting some very, very specific art styles in this. And if you like the art style, I think it kind of sells itself. News-wise, I've only got one more story.
Just one?
Yep. And that is a very simple one. So, Knights of Dice have stated that they will be having the website up and running again, and they're going to do a temporary sale. So you'll remember that we discussed last year that Viv was closing the business down in June last year. That did happen. He had that many orders. The sale was that successful that it took him months and months working full time and then coming back after night shift to cut these to fulfill all of those orders. So well done for everybody that flooded him with orders. The closing down sale was far more successful than he expected it to be, essentially. He did say at the time, before that was known, that he would consider reopening it as doing like a temporary thing here and there. I'm expecting that things will probably go along the same sort of wave. Like, his stuff has always been popular. So if you do decide to go in on this sale, I would probably suggest that you should expect that it may take a while for it to be fulfilled. This man is working a full-time job at the time when he'll be doing this, so he'll only be cutting things in his off time. But I believe it's only going to be the terrain sets. He said that there may be more terrain sets up to sale, but it depends on motivation, essentially. So he may have new stuff, but he may not. It'll be interesting to see what that leads to. I will definitely be ordering something. There's been a couple of people that's asked if he'll be doing the foam trays again. I suspect that he won't, but I don't know that for a fact. Just because I know he deliberately sold out of his foam at the time. So I'm not expecting that he would do that. But yeah, that is essentially the news story. Just keep an eye on Knights of Dice on their social media. If you were subscribed to their newsletter in the past, because he closed the business down and closed down that newsletter, he no longer has access to the email addresses on that. So you're going to have to keep an eye on his social media feeds for when this goes live, because otherwise you may miss out. So follow him on whatever he is on. I'm following him on Facebook. That is how most people follow him, I believe. Otherwise, keep an eye on us, because when the link goes live, I will share it. Knights of Dice have some of the best, or had some of the best MDF terrain on the market. They were really good at... MDF has this problem of looking flat quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, yes, like, there is flat buildings and stuff, but they had a very good way of hiding that in, like, for example, they would use the brickwork and the decorations to hide where that seam was when you're connecting it together and stuff. So that they were really, really good. Which isn't to downplay other people's stuff. We've said multiple times that we're fans of what other people do as well. But this is something that you generally can't get anymore. So if you're wanting some of his stuff, I would be jumping on this.
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
We are looking at Battle Kiwi. Long followers of the show may be thinking, hang on, you've looked at Battle Kiwi before. Yes, you're right. I've also unboxed a couple of things from Battle Kiwi as well. Looking at this, hang on, very quickly. If we scroll down, there is a Code 1 Battle Wallet for Infinity. I have unboxed that. I have also unboxed the same sort of thing, but for Age of Sigmar, which is in here somewhere. We'll come across it at some point. We are specifically looking at the battle boxes today. Just very, very specifically. So, I am going to start by opening up the 40k battle box just as an example of what we are talking about. And it helps if I press the text, not the picture.
Yeah, I was going to say the website's a little finicky.
Yeah.
There
So,
we go.
basically what this is a multi-tiered box, essentially. This is all pre-built. So you don't have to build this when you receive it. They build it for you before they post it to you. That is a point of difference already. Most companies don't do that. And like the top of the tray is essentially everything you need to be able to follow on your 40k games. So we've got your tickers over here so you can keep track of your points and so forth. There's a nice place to put the cards for the missions that you're following, like your secondary missions and special tokens that you need to keep an eye on, and your dice and everything. Primary mission track points, secondary mission track points. How many CP do you have? What turn are we in? So on and so forth. But on top of that, there's also a dice tray and a place for literally everything that you can have. So in this case, they're like dices and tokens. There's a place for your measuring tool and general widgets and so on and so forth. And finally, there's another one for the rest of your cards, which is, like, honestly, it's a really smart idea. Is this something you need to play with for 40k? No.
No,
really
but it's
nice,
one of those
though.
game aids. Yeah, it's one of those game aids where it's like, it makes keeping track of things so much easier.
Yep. If you go to choose an option, basically you don't have to buy the full kit. You can just buy certain parts of it. So the Battle Box Warlord with dice tray or with lid, because you don't necessarily have to have everything. Or you could just buy the command stack, just the mission card stack, so on and so forth. You could just buy the lid, and so on and so forth. And then depending on what you select will depend on what your price is. So on screen at the moment, what we are looking at is in New Zealand dollars. I know you guys turned it over to be in US dollars. If I was
59.57.
For which? What have you selected?
Battle Box Warlord with dice tray, like the big kahuna.
Yep. So
Pretty much
97
everything.
New Zealand dollars and 90 cents was 57. What?
59.57.
So little over half is what your exchange is. The New Zealand dollar is actually a little weaker than the Australian dollar, so that would make sense. If I go back, the data slate is just that. It's basically a slate to keep track of everything, and that's all that it is. So 10th edition tracker, you can buy it in 2 different colours. You can get a grey or a black one. I think personally I prefer the grey one, but that's just me. And so you've got your turn counter, command points, your prime objective, your secondary objective 1 and 2, and then basically all you're doing is keeping track of that. The Age of Sigmar one is very similar, but it actually has a lid underneath that holds all of what your actual missions are called, but then of course you still have to go and look up what the mission is. I'm not going to look at all of these, but I'm just going to kind of...
I found some.
Yep.
Yep.
What do you want to look at?
Admiral Fleet Command for Black Seas.
Yeah, I was coming to that. Okay, I'll skip ahead to that. I was deliberately leaving that because I knew that was one you was going to want to look at.
Yeah.
So yeah,
4 trays for the ships, each 4 different ships with all their sail and hit point ratings.
Yeah,
I like that.
It is probably worth noting that I'm fairly sure you could use this with Mantic's Kings of War Armada as well, because that's based on Black Seas rules-wise. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to use this for that as well. It's not advertised for that, so like I said, I could be wrong. But if the cards are the same size, everything should still fit. So yes, you've got places in here to hold the cards for whatever boats it is that you have. You've got trackers here. There's a tracker whether it's a full barge or a light ship, or broadsides and status tokens and all of this. Like all of this sort of stuff you can just lay on top of your card. But if you bump the table, then you lose track of which token was on which ship, and it gets a little difficult sometimes. And that's the benefit of accessories like that. And that's all this is. It's just an accessory. The Battle Force box, I was actually watching somebody use one of these on Friday night. So this is literally a way to carry your game around. I had a version of this for Marvel Crisis Protocol. So it has your token tray that holds your cards. It has another tray which has your points tracker, as well as holding all of your moving templates. It gives you an example there of how the point thing
So here's
works.
one of the cards for Black Seas, and the reason why I like these trays is because
it lines
how
up
the game works.
specifically.
Well, not just that, but in the game you have these little red trackers that slide back and forth on the cards to mark your damage.
Yep.
Whereas these, I can see them pretty easily, and they're not going to
ruin
the cards.
Yeah, you're not sliding something back and forth on the card.
Yep,
that, and
exactly.
if you add paint to it, it's just going to look even better.
Yeah, I would probably. So I have Spanish ships, but I'm also going to be getting some British ships, and so I plan on, if I were to get some of these, paint one in some Spanish colors and paint one in some British colors, and that way I can just take, okay, which fleet am I going to take today?
Yep.
Here's all my Spanish stuff.
I mean, in saying that, you really only have to have one set, and you just swap the cards out.
Correct, but if I'm playing a demo, I'm going to have...
Yeah. These will stack too, so if you were playing a demo, you could just grab 2 sets and stack it on top of each other.
Yep.
And if you want more than just... Because that initial set is $40 in New Zealand, I'm guessing that means it's going to be around
$25.
Yep.
24.12.
And I'm guessing it's around a tenner for the extra trays?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's really affordable. Obviously, you'll have postage on top of this. But it's very, very affordable. Getting back to the Star Wars Shatterpoint one, the main thing here is you've got your character card there, a nice place to keep all of the tokens. So again, they can't go flying when you bump the table. They all stack on top of each other so that they're really easy to carry around. And of course, there's a lid, so you can just put the lid over the top of them and it holds everything together in one easy to carry around bundle. They work really well. Being that they come pre-built means that you don't have to have the finicky job of putting it all together. and then basically
I
you just
would-
need to put it in a backpack.
I would almost want them to send it to me not put together so that I could customize it a little easier with paint.
I mean, I don't want to speak for the guy that runs it, but I'm sure if you was to ask not to have it assembled, I doubt that he'd have a problem with it. There is like a couple of accessories for these as well. Like you can get like a magnet tray if you want to magnetize your bases and then use that as the lid for the thing instead. You can also get like customized lids with certain factions on them.
So the one thing I'm looking at right now are the force trays for Shatterpoint.
Yep.
And I think something like that, it's so underrated for games. Like having a dashboard that holds stuff in place. So and this is what I want to come up with and do something for Drop Fleet Commander.
Yeah.
With the the fact that now you
what I
can't
was
get the
hoping
bases.
I was going to do when getting rid of the bases, because I feel that doing something like that would have been right in TTCombat's wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, they decided that that's not how they wanted to do it, but it is what it is. There's nothing to say that if they do eventually do a second edition that they don't design something at that stage, and maybe that's why they decided to hold off. But I'm guessing at that point.
This is a little feature I just noticed looking at that force tray.
Yep.
So you got Ahsoka Tano there, right? Her card's sitting there in the tray.
Yep.
The left side of that tray is an empty hole, so you can push down to lift the card out to pull it out easier.
Yep. Which is really helpful.
Little things like that. Like it's like someone has really taken the time to really design and make this right.
Yeah.
So that it works properly.
The big problem table-wise for Shatterpoint is because you have so many cards, and they're all like 6x4 cards too. That takes up a lot of table space. So having one of those that's sitting up vertically so that it's easy to read.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, the other argument is, but what if my opponent needs to read that? It's really easy to pick it up and turn it around. Like seriously,
just hand him the whole thing.
Yeah. Or yeah, that too. But it helps with the table size, getting it down, because when you have, let's say you have six characters on the table, each with 2 cards, that's taking up a huge amount of player space at that point, and that's not even including all of the tokens and everything. So
yeah,
it solves a problem. Is it a huge problem? Depends on the size of your table, I suppose. It just makes it easier to manage, I feel.
Well, it depends on you too. If you don't think it's a problem, then it's not a problem.
Don't buy it, yeah. Very quickly, there's a Heresy version that's just the same. It's the 40k, but for Heresy, so I'm just going to skip over that. We have an unboxing for the Infinity one, so I'm going to kind of move past that as well.
I was going to say it's got an extra tray for the blast templates. They still use that in Heresy.
Yeah, good point. MCP, it's essentially the same thing, but slightly different for MCP. The only real difference is you've got the place on the side instead of it being above the card. Pretty much, that's the only difference. You got Power Tracker and the objectives that you're holding, but it's just a different version of the same thing. I don't mean that in a negative sense. It's just like the games work in a very similar manner. There is Star Wars Legion one as well, which I know that you don't play it anymore, Socks, but given that you used to play it, tokens was a huge problem with that game. Like you had 7 million tokens on the table at one time. So being able to keep them together, in my head, makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, I realise that you don't play it anymore. I just kind of thought maybe you might have had an opinion. I guess.
Yeah, it is a good concept. I mean, because you're absolutely right. I mean, having so many tokens across your entire army, you're just like, I used a fishing tackle box for all my tokens, and I'm just like a little token tray. And so it is nice to. My only concern with it though is sometimes you're gonna have units based on what you want with more than a lot of upgrade card slots
Yeah.
that I have for each of the units, and so that might be my only draw. And same with Armada, because I saw the Star Wars Armada ones too. Sometimes
Yeah.
based on your build that you want.
Can I interrupt for probably the most amazing thing that I've seen on this website?
Sure.
So go to bases and then go down to Warhammer: The Old World trays.
Oh yeah, everybody's doing these.
Yeah, so
like literally every company that has MDF is doing these at this point.
Yeah, so well, it's the first time I've seen it. So I think this is brilliant. Of like, hey, take your Sigmar stuff, throw it in this tray, and now throw it in Old World and go rack.
Yeah, because I mean, could you rebase your entire army? Sure, of course you could, but maybe you don't want to. I mean, in the case of me, I mean, I'm not playing it anyway, and I will never play it. But if I did, I would not want to rebase my Skaven. I would want my bases to stay on the round because round bases look nicer than square bases. They just do. And yeah, people will argue with me over that, but it's just how I feel. But also, maybe I still want to play Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Now I could play both. I don't want to play both, but if I did, it's an easy solution. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. They are coming out with new battle boxes all the time. Again, none of this is things that you need for the game. You could make an argument that the bases is something you need, but it's an accessory that solves a genuine issue, which is keeping things together and organized. And I mean, there are like little plastic tubs that you can buy from your hardware store that keeps tokens and stuff. Sox was literally just talking about how he was using a tacker box. That's basically what I'm hinting at as well. But there's also pretty things to keep all together as well. So depends on what you're up to.
Pretty purpose-built things, which if they're done right, which these look very, very well done, you will have what you need, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Which sometimes that's all you want too, is just what you need. So.
Cream, glue, prime, paint.
What have you been up to, George?
Well, I was up to building some more modules for my bench.
Yes. There's been
maybe
20 people that's watched that video at this point or something.
Yeah, I got rid of the paper towel module since, oddly enough, that paper towel module was designed for European paper towel rolls, not American. There's a difference, apparently. I did not know there was a difference between paper towel rolls.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have all been the same, but then again, you guys use freedom units and not the metric system that makes sense. So
that's true. We do use freedom units. So I ditched that and got an actual like tool holding module. So my brushes are on this thing that I constantly have to move around and knock over. More paint storage, obviously, because you can never have enough paint storage, and then bigger drawers to hold the things that didn't fit in the smaller drawers. And then on top of that, I didn't film it because it was just me scanning the barcodes and putting them away. I did get the complete speed paint set from Army Painter from our sponsor. And I went ahead, yes, and I started putting it to work on the Blood Bowl team that I was sent to preview.
Yeah, they look so good. I mean, I already thought they looked good, but putting paint on them just really does nicely.
I'm trying out the slap shop, and so the stuff here on the arm and stuff, that is all just dry brushing. The only paint that's on there is the primer, the black for the fur, the blue on the stomach, and the brown. Yep. Everything else is just dry brush too. So, which also I got the knockoff set of the Artis Opus, and they seem to be working pretty good for $14 for the set of 5.
Yeah, there's a reason that I've never purchased those to unbox on the channel. I just don't think the Artis Opus are worth the money, personally.
That, and I learned how to take apart the extruder head for my 3D printer today.
Oh, nice. Well done. Like I'm not throwing shade at Artis Opus. Like I know that there are people that like really swear by those brushes. I just don't see it. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I can't afford to buy them, so I'm never
No,
buying
I'm in the boat of, if you look at what you do for painting, dry brushing is one of the most violent things you can do to a brush.
Why would you
You
spend
are-
$30 on a brush that's going to be ruined?
You're intentionally using a brush in a method that you shouldn't use a brush. So yeah, why are you spending $30 on a brush? Spend $30 on your triple aught, stable, Winsor Newton 7 series brush. Absolutely. That is a good quality, detail brush to do things with. But for something that you're literally just going to be beating it on constantly.
I spent more on this than you spent on your $14 ripoff, but that didn't exist at the time. But like the Army Painter one, I think I paid $20 for this.
I think that sets
cheaper for you.
$25 US.
Like I've never had an issue with this at all, and even then, this is still expensive because these are just makeup. Well, they're not exactly makeup brushes. Like I've been pulled up on saying that a few times because I usually go, why would you spend big money on what is essentially a $1 makeup brush? But they're not exactly makeup brushes. But essentially, these are cheap brushes rebranded from a different hobby. And they're just essentially rebranded to work with our hobby. And because it's been rebranded, it's worth more. Like most things that you buy in this hobby, you can buy it cheaply by buying the generic version. So, if you want to have a hobby brand because you don't want to be seen buying a makeup brush, there's plenty of them out there. Rant over.
So, I was printing a tray for my organizer, and I have to, at 6 hours, pause the print to put in the ferro paper or whatever for the magnetic tray, then resume it. After I'd done that and embedded the sheet and it got printed in, the nozzle jammed and the print didn't finish.
Yeah.
So it was probably like 67% done, and I could take it and just bend it, and it was so.
Is it recoverable
ruined
or is that done?
Nope, it's done.
That's a shame.
So it's in the trash. I can't, it's too thin to stay in the notches on the tray setup.
Could you save
It'll
the sheet
bounce
out of
around.
it?
Nope, I tried.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's okay. I'm going to be ordering more from him, and it's only shipping from Canada, so it's not too bad. So, quite a bit of hobby for me actually. Just not really a lot to show for it, except for one partially painted gorilla, which he's not looking too bad so far.
No, he's not.
When they're finished, you should send some pictures to Wire because I genuinely think they would appreciate them.
I fully plan on it, and like I said, I've got lots of board games with lots of minis, and I'm working on the quote unquote slap chop, because if it is that quick, that's essentially what I'm gonna have to do to get through that backlog of board games.
By the way, I was just trying to look up the name of the person that we were speaking to. If we are pronouncing that name wrong, let us know. I mean, it looks like Wire to me, but we could be way out on base on that. So,
yeah.
Socks, what have you been up to?
I've been in an exercise at work for the last 3 weeks.
But you're an Air Force person that sits behind a desk. How could you be exercising?
Saying we're deploying stuff, and actually we got some more world stuff going on that I may not be able to.
I was being cheeky.
I know you're being facetious, but we've got some real world stuff going on that I may be busy for the next 3 weeks, anyways, with world events that are happening. So
he's planning his next 6-star hotel, folks. That's what he's doing.
I will not be going, but I will be helping deploy folks out of here.
He's not even going to lower himself to the standards of a 6-star hotel this time.
No, I'm not.
He's going to help deliver the munitions that's going to turn the Houthi into a glass bowl.
No, I'm not going to be doing that.
No comment is the right answer.
Yeah, but however, I showed George. Well, actually, I showed both of you guys this earlier. As you guys know, I'm a War Cradle host, and I had a buddy of mine that was in the local area that unfortunately moved away out of the area. and he thought he was going to be able to keep his Sultanate army and be able to find some friends or have his son play with them. Neither one of those came into fruition, and so he reached back out to me, and I've picked up his entire Sultanate faction. So I've been working on that. So that's the Suleiman.
Those. They were pretty.
Yeah, this is the Suleiman fleet carrier. It's the size of my palm. I mean, my entire hand. This thing's massive. So, and then there's a small little frigate or a cruiser, mine layer cruiser. So on the back of my table, I'm playing it out because these are the guys that have the little teleportation portals, and I'm loving it.
Socks. You didn't tell the listeners where you're going to get your inspiration for the paint scheme for it.
Oh yes.
Tell them the website that you spent 30 minutes looking at, Socks.
So, if you go to Dystopian
tell them the website.
I will. If you go to the Dystopian Wars site and you look at their paint scheme, they have a gold crenellation on their the ceilings and everything like that. But then they have a grayish green base for their ships. I'm wanting to use kind of a turquoise green base color, and George just happened to say, "Oh, I know a company that used turquoise in their packaging, Tiffany and Company, the jewelry store." And lo and behold, they have a turquoise blue, and it looks kind of similar to what I was thinking about anyway. So as I go around to the hobby stores and see what kind of a turquoise paint I can find, I'll let you guys know what I come up with and see how close it is to the Tiffany and Company.
What brands are generally around in your area?
And what brands of what? Paint or
Paints,
stores?
yeah.
Or I've got Scale 70. No, I don't have Scale 75. I've got Citadel, Tamiya's. I've got the new Pro Acryls, Vallejos, Army War Painter. Those are the brands.
All of them have pretty deep. Like turquoise and aqua is a pretty solid color, honestly.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy. Vallejo definitely have a strong one. Games Workshop definitely have a strong one as well.
Hang on, I've already solved it. Monument Hobbies has a Tiffany paint color. It's just their turquoise. But when I searched it, here let me just send this to you, Socks, so you can look at it. I'm not going to send it to Bruce for him to put up.
No, put it in the chat. I can put it up.
Put it in our chat or which chat?
The Facebook one.
Okay.
I put up the studio paint job for him. That's when we froze.
Okay. Let me. So yeah, this is just a quick search, Tiffany paint color, and there's a slew of pretty good knockoffs. But the first thing that caught my eye was the Monument Hobbies Pro Acrylic Turquoise.
Yeah.
It looks pretty dang close.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go that bluish. I think I might want to have a little bit more green to it. So
you want more turquoise than aqua then?
You have to do it like this, and then you have to give them pretentious names because Tiffany is pretentious.
Got it.
If you don't believe me, Bruce, they used to sell a table tennis set, which is 2 pals, 2 balls in a bag. You can get it used on eBay for $1,280.
Do you I don't even know why I'm asking this, because you're going to twist what I said originally anyway. But do you remember what I said when you guys were talking about Tiffany to begin with? Basically that I don't care about Tiffany. That's pretty much the reason why. They're just not a brand that I'm interested in, because I don't really appreciate pretentious brands.
I wasn't even thinking about Tiffany until George mentioned it.
Sure. Hey, look, I may be joking around, but even if you take inspiration where you got it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking inspiration from a jewelry brand. Nothing at all.
Yep.
The fact that there's a jewelry brand that is not just gold and silver in its branding is more what I find interesting.
So hopefully once all my craziness at work can slow down a little bit. Granted, I'm in the process of trying to pack up stuff so we can get ready to move too. So I'm in that phase of life right now. So where projects are having to get packed up so I can get ready because we're going to be scheduling movers here for about beginning of May, end of April timeframe. So we're
They
trying
can
to
move to Alabama.
Yeah, the rednecks.
Yay.
Oh, wait, did I say that?
Sox is going to feel like he's at home again.
No, I'm not.
No,
That was too easy.
no. There's a big difference between Alabama rednecks and South Utah rednecks.
Yeah. What have you been up to, Bruce?
I have been getting ready for a tournament and a trip, but the trip is not hobby related.
Wait, you entered a tournament?
I did, and it's somebody's fault that I won't name. I was going to just take my chance and do it this fortnight because I was in a tight fortnight funds-wise, and then somebody sent me money to make sure that I went. So thank you, George.
Yes,
but
I am that jerk.
I literally called him a jerk after the recording. I think I said, "Oh, you bastard," or something like that.
It's like now I have to actually get ready for this. I think is what you said.
But yeah, so after entering the tournament, I quickly came to the realization that I either don't know where or I don't have my original set of tokens. I originally had like a customized set of tokens for the character that I used because it was inspired by something, and all of the painting I was doing was being inspired by that as well. Despite promising myself that the next time I played Malifaux, I was going to play with one of my bands that I've never played with. Because it's been so long, I am going back to playing with the same guy again like I always do. Because I kind of feel like I need to at least start with something that I know. So I have started making... I bought a whole heap of very cheap MDF bases. So this is a 50mm base for my blast templates. I also have some strategy markers, which is 30mm. And for those that don't know, that is the logo from $1 Billion Babies, which is an Alice Cooper album. For the scheme markers, we have the Alice Cooper eye. Are we starting to sense a theme here? For the scrap tokens, we have a guillotine. And for corpse markers, we have this Alice Cooper teddy bear. I actually own this Alice Cooper teddy bear, but it's not my photo. Like, seriously, I own it. It's sitting over there within eyeshot. Because I just, like, if I'm going to do custom tokens, I'm just going to have fun with them. Why not? Like, these are maybe one and done, but this is basically just sticker paper that I've put over the top of them. I can easily just print new ones for whatever it is that I do long term. The reason I did this and I didn't do, like, the resin stuff like I was with Entropy City is because I found that they're kind of a little bit difficult to pick up from the table, where the MDF bases are really easy to pick up, and they're like decent and solid. So I kind of felt that was a smarter solution, short term anyway.
Bruce,
yes,
Bruce, I'm just going to throw this out here for you since you used little MDF coins. I don't have it, and I don't know what kind of filament printer you have, but the Ender printer I have, you can swap off the extruder for a laser engraver to engrave MDF or cut MDF.
I bought a filament printer, and it's literally I've never been able to get it working. It's not the printer's fault. It's because I get frustrated and I throw it back in the garage because I can't be bothered. I've had offers from people to come over and help me fix it. JP already knows this. We've talked about this to the ends of the earth. I've never been able to get the leveling right. I find it really frustrating because coming from a resin printing background, going back to filament printing with how tedious the leveling is just so backwards for me. It's supposed to be easier, and it's just not. It's so much harder.
Yeah.
And I basically just give in out of frustration. It's not the printer's fault. It's mine.
I broke down and actually bought the proper thickness of feeler gauge to level mine out. So, but I was just throwing that out. If you want a little, if you could find someone, or like that's a good engrave your tokens while they're in a prototype stage.
Yeah.
As a suggestion.
They are condition tokens. These are 20mm bases. I was either going to go this way or 25mm rounds. I decided to go with the squares at the end, just because at least that way it's something visually different. All of this has been done really cheaply, like super, super cheaply. But I'm quite happy with how they've turned out, honestly. I've also been working on some Entropy City terrain. Yes.
I was going to say, here's my next question with all these tokens you're talking about.
Yep.
Are you going to design a dashboard to track all the tokens, or are you just going to set them on the minis?
I'm just going to sit them next to the minis. I don't have time for that. It's not next week, it's the week after, and I'm not here for most of next week. So I literally don't have time for it. I've done all of this now because I don't have time for it later. I don't have time to design a token. I'm not here to do it.
No, a dashboard to hold all the tokens.
Yeah, it's called bag.
No, well,
the basis came in this. It's already solved.
No, I'm talking about like we were talking about with War Kiwi.
Yeah, I know. But no, at this stage, no.
I get it. I get it.
To be fair, that is something I should probably consider with Entropy City when we get further down on the line. I have been designing some, well, I say designing. I've been making some terrain for Entropy City. I have a pile of lumber. They're not just paddle pop sticks.
You just glued some sticks to Dan.
I was gonna say, it looks like you just glued some popsicle sticks together and cut off the rounded edges. That's all you did.
No, these came square. I didn't cut these off at all. They came like that.
I was trying to sound as Monty. I was trying to sound as Monty Python like as possible.
So yes, I literally just took some coffee stirrers, which is paddle pop sticks, but without the rounded edge on it.
I'm
and
sorry,
I've been gluing
what?
them together.
Paddle pops?
Paddle pop sticks, popsicle sticks.
No.
Different countries call them. We don't call them paddle pops. We call them icy poles.
Whoa, that's even. But first of all, who calls them paddle pops?
Paddle pop is a brand of ice cream.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Okay,
So,
like what the heck?
Popsicles. We don't use the word popsicle. That's an American thing. But yeah, basically these were coffee stirrers and I've been gluing them together. I have stolen this idea from somebody from the Blood and Plunder Facebook group who basically did a whole heap of this and then put them on like matchstick pallets. It's just line of sight blocking terrain. And once they're painted up, I actually think it's simple, but it works. And for something like Entropy City, that's a city that's kind of fallen apart, it kind of makes sense that you would kind of have unfinished construction lying around. The other part of this I want to do is get some plumbing tubing and like cut parts of that and like have like those giant, I'm going to paint them up to look like giant cement tubes that go under like the roads and stuff.
Oh, sewer drainage.
Sewage, yeah, that. Because if you get like the PVC piping,
yeah,
and then you just paint it up right, it will look right. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to add simple ideas.
Could I add with your lumber? Maybe not use paint, but actually just use wood stain.
Yeah. Just a brown wash, really.
I mean, even that, yeah. Like, you've got a lot of like texture there with just the fact that it's wood and it has grain. Like, don't cover it.
Yeah. This at this particular point in time is just done with super glue. I will have to cover this with some PVA to make it last long term, because this will just fall apart if I drop it. This was done this morning in about 45 minutes. It's very tedious.
What?
It's
say
really
45
tedious.
minutes.
Yeah, but none of them are straight. Have you ever seen these things? That they're all curled and they're never curled the same way.
Construction lumber isn't straight, Bruce.
I know. But it means finding the glue surface, you kind of have to figure out where it's touching. Unless you like clamp it all together so that it's all perfectly flat. But then it won't look like construction lumber because it'll be too flat. Whereas with the way that, because I've glued it all together naturally, it looks like it's boards that have been warped over time.
Yeah.
Or at least I think it does. Somewhere in here is a board that is actually half broken. But I can't figure out which one it is. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. I played a game of Entropy City last night. First one I've played since October, because I've kind of been working on the rules since, and I've kind of been taking a break from constant playtesting. We had Hades, which is the cruiser gang, against the Komodo, which is the sports bikes again. We had our first testing of the on-foot miniatures. We also had the first testing of Molotov cocktails as weapons, and the first testing of the spike strips. And immediately, I was slaughtered, like brutally. I was completely tabled by the end of turn 2. But immediately, on-foot miniatures need a lot more work. They're not ready yet, which is fine. Like, actually finding problems is a good thing when you're playtesting. I do like how the Molotov cocktails work, but I want to change the way that the templates work. Because I don't want the Molotov cocktails to wound in and of themselves. The burning condition does enough by itself. So it's just trying to cause problems.
Ooh. I just had an idea for the Molotov cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about templating it, right? So you got a flamer template where it's small and it gets big.
That was the original plan, yes.
Flip it around so it's big and then it gets smaller because it's like, moving away from like the source where conflict caught on fire initially.
Yeah. So it was originally a 50mm template that grew into a 70mm template. And generally speaking, what we found is the difference between the two didn't really make much of a difference on the table. I still like the idea. It just doesn't work unless I was to make it a drastic change in size. But what I'm going to do instead is I've changed it so that it's just a flat 70mm. But if you have multiple that land within a certain distance of each other, then the in-between is going to be on fire as well, to kind of encourage you to throw them in a similar sort of area. So the way I've written it at this stage is if the templates are within 2 inches of each other, then what's in between is also on fire. Just to give you options, I suppose, because the idea is that you're meant to be setting traps, right? And that the fire is supposed to fade after the third round of whatever the most recent one was. Because, I mean, if I throw one and then in the next turn I throw another, then the fire is going to kind of relight again and not fade as quickly as it would have.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my idea anyway. I may shorten it down to 2 turns. We'll see how it goes in testing. Spike trip worked pretty much as I wanted. It's really hard to avoid. I actually thought that I'd managed to somehow fluke my way out of not crashing the first time. But then I realised I was accidentally adding my wounds to the roll instead of my stress, meaning that, no, I did bust, and I busted really badly. My guy was on fire and bleeding, and then they'd set the spike trap right in front of him, so he couldn't possibly avoid it. So, this guy was never surviving the next turn. And he survived on 1 wound, and then somebody basically just kicked him when he was down, and he was dead.
So basically, he's the dog from the meme just sitting there saying, "This is fine."
Yep, pretty much. So, yeah, it was brutal. Like I said, I got slaughtered. It was very one-sided, but I'd introduced quite a few things at the same time. And I'd given them all of the extra stuff. Like, they had one more person than I did, but it was balanced out in theory because wounds were all the same. But it doesn't really work that way on the table, really. Also, I lost somebody instantly through a really poor roll. They shot one of my guys before I even got to activate them. I was really upset.
Oops.
It happens. The other thing I tested...
I've done that a lot playing Shaltari.
Oh, yeah. The other thing I tested for the first time...
Yeah, that's not fair, George.
So much anger.
Only because you're the one that was responsible for him getting it from his other friend.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing I tested for the first time, these aren't actually it, but the ambush tokens. The way I've always...
communion wafers.
The way I've always wanted ambush to work. Infinity has this thing where if you have someone that's concealed, then you'll have like a mini on the table, but technically it's not there. You're not allowed to react to it unless your character sees it. But at the end of the day...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's still a part of the brain that's like, yeah, but I know that that's there, so I'm going to try and be careful. So my idea of this is that you have 3 identical looking tokens down on the table that you can place in certain areas, but only one of them is the real token. And it's not until it's revealed that you know which one it was.
And the token is what is labeled then, correct?
Yeah. So on the real, these aren't it, but on the real one, there was a green Y and then 2 X's. And the idea is that it could be revealed in one of 2 ways. Either you could just choose to activate it, because that may be what you want to do at some point, or otherwise, when I come into line of sight in a certain distance, you have to reveal it. And if it's the right one, then it basically causes me to be surprised and stuff, because you've caught me off guard. So, yeah, still more testing needed on that, but coming across things that didn't quite work as well was a good thing, because it means that I can update them.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
I almost had a game talk for today, but I decided against it at the last minute because it's a topic that we have discussed before. And
we are running a little long right now too.
That's the other thing. I may have us discuss the whole nerfing of armies and the reasons behind it again at some point in the future, because I think this needs to be discussed again. People just don't get it. Upcoming events, though. So, the March Malifaux, this is the tournament that I am going to be part of. They've actually just expanded it to a 12-person event. It was originally 10, so there's a couple of extra tickets out there that you can get your hands on, or at least you could at the last time I checked it. It takes place on the 30th of March, so this is 2 weeks' time. It's at Bakers Road in Coburg North. 9 a.m. start. It's a one-day event, 3 rounds. The Melbourne Figures Painter Collective happens the following day on the 31st. That's happening at the same location from 12 till 5. I will not be there because we will be recording on that day. Adepticon, 22nd to the 26th of March. There's a whole bunch of tournaments taking place there. Plus
Never heard of it.
Nope.
Plus companies releasing like new products and everything that's already being shown and teased and shown off rather. If you're in the area, definitely check it out. It's probably one of the 2 main ones that I kind of really want to get to. Maybe even more so than Gen Con. I mean, I know that Gen Con is the event, but Adepticon is probably the one that I think I would enjoy more.
I think you would too, from what I've heard. I got a couple of friends that they go to it regularly. I need to tag along sometime now.
ArcFest is coming up insanely quickly. Again, this is an event for multiple. It's Arc previously had always been specifically a 40k event, and they're trying to expand this out to be multiple different games so that it becomes like a proper, actual tabletop convention. I've been saying pretty much from day one that this is something we need to get behind because Victoria needs a proper tabletop convention. PAX is good. I love PAX, but the tabletop is kind of just there. It's not really what the event is for. The video games is where all of the focus is. So it would be good to have just a proper tabletop event thing again. And finally, we have Nunawading Wargamers Association Saga Tournament. It's happening at the Blackburn RSL on the 19th of May. Thank you again to our sponsor, Valhalla Hobby. They sponsor the podcast. They have been sponsoring the podcast for a while now. They are in Verona, Wisconsin. They are a gorgeous store. They've got a lot of product. They have a real passion for the indie side of the community, as do we, which is also where that relationship came from. They do have your Warhammers and your Dungeons and Dragons and your Magics, but they also have your Bushidos and your War Cradles and your Moonstones, your Blacksite Studios. Like, they have all of the small stuff as well, which is not always easy to find out in the wild. They do have an online presence, valhallahobby.com. If you use the code TABLED, is that right? Yes, TABLED. You'll get 5% off your first order over $100. It shows them that you've come from us and that sponsoring us is worth it. We get no kickback from that. It's just so that they can see where it's coming from. They are wonderful to talk to. They quite regularly like to call me out on things when I don't say the right thing, and I always appreciate it. I think it was I like to be cheeky and call the Bruce out on stuff, which I just found that really amusing the way that he said it.
That is the best part about the show.
Yes.
Yeah. Quite deliberately from day one, we've tried to present ourselves very professionally, but we've always supposed to have just been gamers, not professional hosts and so forth. So that's always been kind of the thing. Yeah. So support Valhalla Hobby. Please support the people that support us. If you would like to support us, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/gettingtabled. You can find all of the links to everything that we've discussed on our website, which is gettingtabled.com. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's, without question, the most active social media presence we have. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/gettingtabled. There's a video that comes out every Thursday. Sometimes it will be the video version of this podcast. Sometimes it will be an unboxing or a discussion point. It just depends on what's happening at the time.
Or rambling over a 30-minute video on a voiceover.
People that are on our Patreon get early access to almost all of the videos that we do. So thank you to those that do support us. You are greatly appreciated. On the screen down below us, there will be a link that you can follow to our Discord. Join the community. It is a small community at this stage, but everybody is welcome. There is specific channels for the Patreon that also includes a specific channel for Entropy City, but everything else is open to everybody. So get on board, get discussions. It's always good. Very supportive community, I find, as well. Like everybody.
Also, if you're a Patreon, you can listen to us record this live.
True.
Yes.
X, Twitter, Instagram is at @gettingtabled. Sorry, it's Twitter. It's not X. I don't care what they say. Twitch.tv/Jason the Bruce is a casual streaming that I do. I was playing RoboCop last week. RoboCop Rogue City, which is just lots of fun, honestly. And otherwise, Toy Reel. YouTube.com/ToyReel is a group that I'm with as well. It's kind of a similar vibe, but it's for action figures instead of tabletop games. So I think that's everything.
That is everything.
Socks, do you have anything?
Yes. Nope, I'm good.
Are you? Are you though?
Yeah, I'm good.
Socks claims that he's good. I don't know if he's telling the truth.
I'd say mediocre because he couldn't beat Sheltari.
I mean, he is somebody that sits behind a desk and stays in 6-star hotels, so I don't know how good he truly can be. While he's claiming to be camping or in a desert.
Be nice to Carl.
All right, fine. And thank you, George. Thank you, Socks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
Play more games.
Paint your minis.